Here with Randy Phillips with Phillips, Craig, and Dean, and we love hearing your music here in Iowa. And I just want to kind of give you folks a little background of Phillips, Craig, and Dean. How did your group begin?
Well, all three of us were friends before we began the group. We had known each other growing up and in our churches and different things, and so Star Song Records in Nashville heard my solo album and wanted me to do an album for Star Song. And after talking to them, it became apparent that they wanted more of a male group than they wanted a soloist. Now, the guys say it's because they knew I needed some help singing. But in actuality, they had numerous soloists, and they wanted a group. So we got together, put 2 or 3 songs on a cassette, sent them up there, and that was almost 13 years ago.
And you haven't stopped since. I know real busy schedules, of course. Kind of talk a little bit about that. I know you're also a pastor at your church there in Austin.
Yes, I'm a pastor of a great church here in Austin, Texas, non-denominational, spirit-filled church in the great city of Austin called Promised Land. In fact, the other 2 guys, they also pastor in Dallas and in St. Louis. So singing concerts is an extension of really what we do on a daily basis.
So which came first? Were you pastors first, or did you go into the music first then?
It's always been a tandem thing. We've always sung, and pastoring was always part of what we were doing. The capacities of being pastor has changed through the years. Dan and Sean were music pastors. I was a youth pastor. And through the years, our senior pastors have gotten older, and we are slowly, each one of us, becoming the senior pastor at our churches.
How much touring do you do nowadays?
We're out about 4 to 6 concerts a month.
The more you get involved in your churches, and of course, of your families growing and things like that, how much has that changed over the years?
Early in our singing career, we took a lot of dates. We sung at every opportunity, every festival, every church service, every radio promoted event. If they wanted us, we went, and it almost killed us because we were holding full-time jobs at churches. We had families to consider, but it was what we felt like we needed to do for the first couple of years. Now that we've more established, and 12, 13 years later, we're able to do our schedule more effectively, because what's most important to us is our families than our churches. And so we have to prioritize our time so that the tail's not wagging the dog.
Well, I know you're also involved in many ministries, of course, in your church, and I know you do have some other ministries as well. Heart at Home is one of them that I see. Heart
at Home is a nonprofit organization that I have that helps kids at risk, teens. At Heart at Home, we have a counseling department, which is some wonderful volunteers that come in and work with kids that are substance abuse kind of education, literacy programs, helping them to find their scholarship information at colleges for those that really don't have a chance of going to school. They may excel academically, but they just financially couldn't get there. So we try to help kids at risk in many different ways, and I'm trying, Wes, to build a performing arts amphitheater here in Austin, and we're trying to find funding for that right now so that we can develop the arts department of Heart at Home. These kids dance and sing and play instruments and all that, and we'd like to build a facility that's on a neutral site that could attract and display their gifts. So if anyone's in your listening audience that's feeling benevolent, is a philanthropist, needs a great tax write-off, I have just the project for you.
You may be getting some phone calls there.
I hope so.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your music now. As far as lyrically and musically, how much of that do you, the three of you, write?
We write about 80% of the music on our album, 70 to 80%. On the past 2 worship albums, we did more worship that is familiar to the church and less of our own writing. But we on previous albums, we wrote the majority of the songs.
Now, as far as when you're writing these songs, do you just come up with an idea all of a sudden, or you are felt led to write something, or how does each song usually begin writing itself, I guess?
Well, it's different for everyone you would ask.
Mm-hmm.
For me, another song can inspire me. A sermon can inspire me. A real-life situation in my church inspires me. My relationship with my wife, my children, my family, nature. There's a number of things, definitely Scripture, but I tend to get inspired mainly from sermons, either that I've heard or I've preached myself, and try to capsulize some kind of concept of God so that when it's sung, put to music, it makes an impression and it invites the presence of God to the singer and to the listener.
Do you maybe have one or a few songs that tend to be your favorite to perform?
One of my favorites would be Crucified with Christ. It's a song that I wrote out of a circumstance in my life where I needed to be broken by the cross, and I did get broken by the cross. And it was just came out of that experience to where real living and priorities turned around for me at that particular instance. And I went to Galatians 2:20. Paul talks about being crucified with Christ, and yet that's really living. And I found that to be true and tried to encapsulate that idea with lyrics and music, and we're thankful that radio embraced it and people seem to be impacted by it.
Well, one thing that I definitely love about your music is there isn't anything wishy-washy about it, I guess.
No, not at all. It's that's because we're pastors, we're ministers. If someone wants to write a song that's vague and you can read many interpretations into it, there's some wonderful writers that do that. Great writers and great singers, but that's not what we're called to do. We're more of we're Christ first. And if people want vague lyrics, probably we're not the group for them.
Well, Randy, I sure appreciate you being with us today, and I tell you what, I've over the years really, really appreciated your music as well as my family has as well.
Well, God bless you, Wes. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you, and God bless your listeners, and I hope the Lord just gives you the desires of your heart.